Good evening, ghouls and goblins, witches and warlocks. Hello. Very, very welcome to this viewing of the Blair Witch Project. So first, let me set out what I'm going to be talking about. I tend to speak very, very fast. If you can't follow what I'm saying and you want me to slow down or repeat, please just tell me. I get overexcited and then blah. Okay, so we're going to give you the context first of all. So I studied here and I studied cultural studies, and with cultural studies we view everything as a text. So anything can have meaning. So we're kind of looking at the meaning and the process of consumption of the film The Blair Witch Project. So that's kind of the context. Does everybody have some vague knowledge of what the film is about? Yeah? Okay, not everyone's nodding. So essentially, it's one of those folkloric horrors. So it's based on myth and superstition, or fact, as some people would put it. It's made by Häxan Films. Häxan is the Swedish word for the witch, which, you know, gives you some idea of the flavour. Essentially, it's a small town rural community which has seen supernatural events of a horrific nature every sort of 50 or 60 years. And they're all based around the persona of a witch. So we go all the way back to times of the witch trials. The whole idea of the witch comes from women who were knowledgeable. And this was not something that was particularly encouraged by the Puritans. So often you would get midwives or herbalists, and because they were seen to have power, they were often mistrusted. But obviously with medicine in those days, things could go wrong. So if you have a miscarriage and or you know, the child is born, stillborn, whatever, often the blame was put on the woman who was helping. There's also an element of truth in the stories of witchcraft. So most of these communities relied on grain crops, particularly rye. Okay, now rye, when it's stored and it's damp, I hate that word, at least it wasn't the M word, it will often grow fungi and other mycelium. And these fungi produce hallucinogenic materials. So people would eat the rye bread. Who bakes the rye bread? Women, right? They'd eat the rye bread and they would literally see their partners or children turn into animals. They would imagine they were flying. They would see women fly, all the rest of it. They felt they were being enchanted. So all these stories of witchcraft are rooted in an element of fact. So where the Blair Witch Project is set, rural, small town, most people are not very educated. It's the perfect environment for these word-of-mouth tales to spread, and it's Chinese whispers. Each generation tells the stories, and then they add another layer and another layer, and so it goes on. What's nice about the Blair Witch Project is that they aren't actors. They are film students who are investigating a legend about a witch. And the legend has to do with disappearances of children and disappearances of bodies which were found disemboweled, that just magically vanished. So there's all these tales going back lots of years. So there's a group of film studies students who want to go and make a documentary film. They go out into the forest, they speak to people in the town. That's the premise. Okay? So, there's going to be some spoilers. If you don't want the spoilers, then la 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 la, or come back in 5. But I need you, Kitty.
Can I drink?
I'll tell you what, Kitty, stay, and if I'm going to reveal anything, I'll tell you. Yeah?
I want someone else to do the standing thing if Kitty doesn't want to know the spoilers.
Yeah?
I'm happy to do that if you haven't
Yeah.
any spoilers. Because it's fun to watch without spoilers.
Okay. Okay, so this film, tell me what you know about it, Kitty.
All I know is that it's a found footage film.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
And
They're in the woods.
yeah,
That's it.
okay, how do I ask this without giving too much away? What genre is it?
Horror.
What sort
Found
of horror?
footage.
So, is it a documentary film?
No. Yes. It is, but it's fake.
Okay, good. She knows it's fake.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay, that was the bit I was worried about. Okay, that's good. We know it's fake. Or do we? Dun 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 dun. Okay, so much younger me, right? Film comes out in 1999. I'm going to paint a picture for you what it was like to anticipate the viewing of ta-da, this film. Okay? So, to start with, it was set in 1995, so 4 years previously. I believe they started filming around that time as well. And what was unusual at the time was how much information we had that was word of mouth. First, you need to put yourself in the situation of being someone who wanted to access the internet in 1999. Okay, so in America, only 34% of households, so not people, households, had access to the internet at home. So the way it would work is you would go to a friend's house. Should we go and look at the internet? What? And you would literally just search for stuff. It was like the Wild West. It was completely ungoverned, really. And people would make a lot of websites at home. It was much less commercialized. The other thing you've got to remember is that social media did not exist. So all my teenage shenanigans are not on any social media website. I know. So when you went round to somebody's house, you had to do dial-up internet, which means you had a modem and it was attached to the phone line. So if somebody wanted to make a call, you had to hang up the internet and get a ding ding. Okay. So it wasn't easy to get access to the internet. Things like libraries were very much policed. People wanted to know what you were looking at. And it was also difficult to access in terms of time because people didn't have computers at home. They went to the library to use it. So the consumption of the internet was a group thing. So people would go around each other's houses, at people's place of work. They go, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that? The main thing as well was to do with discussion. You had a lot of chat rooms, a lot of forums, that kind of bit like Reddit. That was kind of the mainstay of the internet. And this is part of what allowed the story of the Blair Witch to spread. So the directors were geniuses. They were marketing geniuses. They created a website, theblairwitch.com. And when you clicked on it, you had 3 subcategories. I actually looked at it for real. And I was like, oh, wow. So we had mythology, filmmakers, and aftermath. So first you got the mythology, they built the story, and they built up the fear. The idea that this was something that was real. And they went back in terms of history and historical events and created this whole timeline. And people were much more gullible in those days. Then they looked at the filmmakers, not actors, filmmakers. The college they were going to, the courses they were studying for. All fake. And then the aftermath, this was where the genius came in. The 3 filmmakers are missing. If you went onto IMDb to preview this film and you looked at the filmmakers, the actors, it came up with missing, presumed dead. I mean, how clever is this? And everybody bought into it. Yeah? The next thing that the directors did was they made a documentary. And it was a documentary about the missing filmmakers and about the Blair Witch. So we gave you all that kind of background information in a lot more detail than you had in the film itself. You got all the stories, you got the historical events, you got faked historical documents, you got faked first-person accounts of what had happened. Absolute genius, and people lapped it up. Yeah? Now, there was kind of a clue in that the documentary was aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. Should have kind of given it away, but you know. So people completely and utterly bought into it. Yeah? The media we had to consume was also much more limited. You had your analog TV channels. If you missed a program, you missed a program. That was it. There were ad breaks and you had to run to the loo and then you had to run back. So because there was a lot less media to consume, this became like a big talking point. And again, fueled on the internet. And a lot of people would be chatting back and forth, etc., etc. And again, no social media. You can't go and check up on the filmmakers. Hey, look, he was spotted in so-and-so. So we created this perfect storm of paranoia and fear and intrigue. Yeah? People were desperate for this film to come out. Okay. So, this went viral. It was probably the first time a horror film went viral in this context, and it was global. Absolutely unheard of. Now, in order not to be sued, the directors had these 2 magazines. One was Time magazine, I can't remember the other one, where they had the filmmakers on the front and went, hey, it was all a film and we're alive. We don't want to be sued with like, you said it was true and it isn't. However, bear in mind, 1999, we don't have newspapers on the internet in the same way. We don't have people who are media savvy in the way they are now. So for about 2 or 3 weeks, as the film came out, people were going to the cinema thinking they were watching real found footage. And that is what is the key behind the appeal of the film and the power it has. Okay, Kitty, can you come up to the front, please? So there had been a few found footage films before this, one in the 80s. But they fell through because they had a lot of filmography that showed this is not found footage, this is not a documentary. Things like establishing shots of the landscape from an aeroplane, well, they're not going to be able to do that, are they? Yeah? So Blair Witch was the first one. Okay, Kitty, have a look there. Okay, that's you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's you. Can you face me? Okay. We first got extreme close-up in the film Psycho. And extreme close-up was so associated with horror from then on. But we had it slightly in a new way. Okay, I'm going to be the camera, okay? All right? And I want you to tell me how it feels.
Yeah, well, it feels very invasive
Mhm.
to start with.
Yeah.
It's about the word I would use.
So the camera's invasive, invading your space. Yeah. How does it make you feel?
Uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It makes me feel like my breath doesn't smell great.
Mhm. So if you were filming with a camera this close, how concerned are you about your appearance, about your breath, etc.?
Very.
If you are, your hands are on me, you are filming yourself
Oh,
with
right.
me. There we go.
Probably not. I've got other things to worry about.
Okay. So we're getting an insight into her frame of mind through that use of extreme close-up. Yeah? It's invasive. We get a sense of exactly how scared she is based on where the camera is. It's literally in her face. We are invading her privacy. She's so scared that she doesn't dare have it further away. She needs the security of having the light here. Yeah? So that use of extreme close-up was part of what created that sense of fear, because that level of close-up is not something we're used to seeing on screen. And because people thought it was real found footage, you had that heightened sense of emotion, that heightened sense of fear. You was literally seeing her fear, Heather's fear, live. Yeah? And it's, thank you very much.
It's okay.
It's pretty gross. There's like snot and tears and it's really uncomfortable. Okay? Now, with horror, it's not like body horror or gore or a slasher. We get very little blood, and we get a little bit. It's okay, we get some. However, again, it's the filming style that builds into this sense of building an atmosphere of tension, of fear, of lack of knowledge, of insecurity, etc. So you've got to remember, it was all analog. So sometimes it's in black and white. Sometimes it's not that like digital. We're used to sharp focus. We don't get that here. We're not always sure of what we've seen. And because it's filming with, mics and there's no post-production in terms of sound, you hear the breathing, you hear the rustling of the backpacks and what have you. Yeah? It's all about distorting what is there so you can't trust your own eyes. You're sharing what they are going through. They can't trust their own eyes. We see through that lens. We experience what they are experiencing. Yeah? We get a lot of tracking shots where you're following the person running or the person walking. And again, there's no, what's it called when they have the thingy, the Steadicam. There's no Steadicam. You've got that movement. It's like you are there. Yeah? When I went to see it, I knew it wasn't real. But because I hadn't read the Times newspaper article, because I had to go out and buy a copy of the Times magazine, and they didn't sell it where I lived. And you knew that people said, oh yeah, it's not real. But in the cinema, due to the filming style, that grainy, fuzzy, kind of unsteady, shaky filming, you felt like you were there. I was absolutely myself. I was so scared. Normally when you go into a horror, you have to suspend your disbelief. Okay, I know it's just a film, but I've got to pretend like it's really happening because then I can like go with it and feel it. Here, there was a part of you that really believed it was happening. You didn't have to suspend your disbelief. Yeah? It was up to the film to prove that it wasn't true. You're going, okay, I'm looking for signs, but it just drew you in. And you were so scared by the end of it. I remember when the lights came up, you just sat there shell-shocked. So, when you're watching, you need to imagine being in 1999. You think it is real. You and your mates have been talking about it for months. You think that the film makers are really missing. That's how you need to go in and watch it.